The city of Los Angeles has passed yet another rental regulation, but this one is a little bit different. They are banning the sale or rental of RVs for housing. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today. And once again, it's coming out of Los Angeles, California. But this article, it's a little bit different. This rule, this regulation they're coming up with has more to do with the rental of RVs and not necessarily of property. Okay, so normally I talk about houses and such, right? But I thought it was quite interesting that they came up with this rule. Now, recently I had read about a story where I believe it was in Los Angeles County where basically these people, they owned a home and they had filled up their entire backyard of this home with old RVs, and then they were renting them all out to low-income people, okay? Kind of like creating your own RV park in the backyard of your house, okay? And the problem was that they did not have the permits, the permission from the city in order to do this. Not only that, but they didn't have the infrastructure for all of this, which means that when people, they went to the restroom in these RVs, it just was flowing out into the streets. It was pretty nasty from what I heard, okay? And the other issue is that we have a lot of homeless people in a place like Los Angeles. So a lot of them are living in RVs, and it's unfortunate, but at least it gives them some kind of roof over their head. But now the city is making it even more difficult for those people even to exist. So, I don't think that living in an RV long term is a good idea, but I understand why people who are homeless are doing it. So yeah, it's quite an interesting thing. Not necessarily have to do with real estate or traditional landlord issues, but I thought I'd bring the story to you anyway. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So what do you think of this situation where they're making it illegal to rent out RVs for housing? Do you think this is actually going to be a good thing? Do you think it's going to hurt the homeless people? Do you think it's going to, what do you think is going to happen? I'm just curious, I don't think that it's actually going to discourage people from doing this, but they might have another way of going after the really, really bad actors. All of this, it's kind of a issue that really focuses on that part of the country where this homelessness has become so rampant and where housing is so unaffordable that people are literally living in little man-made shanty towns. It's kind of funny when you go to foreign countries, you'll see the slums, and they're just literally just steel sheds that people are living in. And a lot of the times they don't have electricity. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they have electricity. A lot of times they don't have running water. They're very, very dirty, very, very poor. But now we're seeing the same thing pop up here in American cities. And it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad, really, because we're the wealthiest country in the world. We should be doing better than that, but we're not, okay? And this is the reality that we face because of the way that things are, especially in places like California, where the houses are, the prices are artificially inflated by the government, making it almost impossible to develop, and blocking off areas, and trying to use environmental protections, making things extremely expensive. And they think that, everything will be just fine. Well, that's just not the case. But anyway, let's get into this article. This article is coming from abc7.com, and it says, LA Council approves motion to ban sale or rental of RVs for housing. All right, let's get into it. The Los Angeles City Council Tuesday approved a motion prohibiting the sale or rental of recreational vehicles for use as housing. The council voted 12-0 to approve a motion seeking to amend city law to add recreational vehicles to the list of vehicles that cannot be used for housing. Council members Paul Krikorian, Marquise Harris Dawson, and Monica Rodriguez were absent during the vote. The motion also asks the city attorney's office to include a requirement for the lesser of an RV to comply with relevant state and federal laws relating to the sale and lease of RVs. In addition, the motion requests the city attorney's office, with assistance from the Office of Code Enforcement, Bureau of Street Services, and other relevant departments, to propose an escalating fine structure for violations of the law. And I don't know if they're going to use this to crack down on the, hundreds or thousands of RVs that are parked all over the city of Los Angeles, or what exactly they mean to do with this law, okay? Or if they're just really trying to crack down on these people who are renting them out. I don't know what the intent is behind it from reading this article. And if you're from the Los Angeles area, put some comments down below and elaborate more, because this article doesn't it doesn't convey the entire image. I know that there are thousands of these RVs parked all over town, but I wasn't aware that people actually owned them and then were renting them out to people until recent incidents kind of showed me that, hey, this is a way that some people are using to generate income and to provide low income or affordable housing. Councilwoman Eunice Hernandez introduced amendments to the motion seeking to provide further assistance to RV renters to find interim or permanent housing. The council approved the motion without discussion. After the council meeting, Councilwoman Tracy Park introduced a motion seeking to regulate RV parking around schools, daycare centers, parks, and homes. Park's motion would limit where RVs can be parked in residential areas and create designated areas where they can be parked. The surge in these oversized vehicles being used as housing units creates a myriad of challenges that affect public health, welfare, and the overall livability of our local neighborhoods, Park said in a statement. So yeah, from the article, it does sound like they're just trying to crack down on the RVs. Okay, there's too many RVs. They're everywhere. As a private homeowner, if I came home from work one day and there were RVs all parked up in front of my house with a whole bunch of homeless people living in it, I would not be very happy. And that's exactly what's happening in a lot of parts of LA. These people, they're not just parking in industrial areas, they're parking in residential areas, they're parking in commercial areas, they're blocking businesses, they're blocking actual legitimate taxpayers and homeowners, and the city is responding. They want to get rid of them. And unfortunately, though, getting rid of the RVs will not resolve the homeless problem, and it may push people who previously at least had that small metal box of shelter over their heads into living in tents or even worse conditions than they were living in before. So I personally think that there are better solutions, and we have to really talk about the fundamentals of why housing is unaffordable and why there are so many people living on the streets in a place like Los Angeles, okay? So, I know it's a big city, and big cities are bound to have homeless people. It just is bound to happen. We have homeless people here in Omaha, Nebraska, but they have a higher percentage of their population is homeless in Los Angeles than anywhere else in the entire country. It's just kind of crazy how that works like that. But yeah, they definitely should crack down on these RVs, in my opinion. They should, okay? I like I said, I wouldn't want this stuff parked up in front of my house or my business or my rental properties, or down by the park where my kids play. Nope. I can see why. It just looks like garbage. It looks like garbage. It makes the entire city feel like garbage. And Los Angeles should be a beautiful place. It's very, very wealthy city, very highly populated. It's a world-class city, and it looks like a giant dumpster fire. Okay. According to Park's office, there are significant concerns regarding renting RVs as housing because of issues related to illegal dumping into storm drains and streets and sidewalks, as well as occupying parking spaces in parking-challenged neighborhoods, and in certain instances contributing to crime and heightening risk of fire. And those are all very good and very valid points. The people who are living in these places are just dumping their raw sewage straight into the storm drains. They are parking, parking is at a premium in a lot of places in Los Angeles or every major city, right? And they're just lining up the streets, so people who live in the houses on those streets can't even park there, or who own businesses or want to shop into businesses on the street can't even park. And yeah, they are bringing crime and problems to the area. That is what comes with homelessness, crime and problems. So yeah, I mean, while I agree that the RV situation is out of control, right? It still seems kind of weird that the law that they actually passed was to prohibit the rental of RVs to people for housing. Like that, it's not exactly the same thing. You know what I mean? Like when you are talking about getting RVs filled with homeless people off the street, right? That is kind of a separate topic from renting RVs to people for housing. Renting an RV to someone for housing, I mean, that there should be, as long as you're complying with the law, there should be no problem with that. Okay, you'd have to have proper sewer and electrical hookups. The thing would have to be, comply with the law, be licensed or whatever. And maybe, if you owned an RV park, then you would have a whole bunch of people living in there for housing, So, I mean, does this law essentially ban RV parks? I don't know if they even have RV parks in LA. But anyway, weird law. Has more to do with homelessness than actually cracking down on these unscrupulous landlords who are renting out unsafe places.